What's up, guys? Welcome back to the shop. In today's video we're going to be continuing on what we were working on last week, and that is the billet with the nuts. And the first thing we're going to do is cut it in half, that way we can sandmine it with some 1084 in the core and be able to stack it up to have a hardenable edge. While the majority of the knife is high carbon, without this center core added to it, we can run the risk of having some dull spots because of the actual nut or bolt nuts that I put in there. Since they are grade 8, they're like a medium carbon steel. They do have a little bit of carbon migration that goes into them from the other carbon in the billet over time, but I can't guarantee that to be enough to hold, an equivalent edge all the way throughout. So it's best to add a core steel. In this case, it's 1084. And as always, I like to spray it down with some WD-40, and that just seeps into the little crevices and burns off in the forge, promoting a very good forge weld and protecting the different surfaces from getting any oxygen on them. Once I have it forge welded enough, I'm gonna go on ahead and just draw it out. That way I have enough stock for my knife. In all honesty, I thought I'd have more material, but that's just the way it goes. I'll have enough just to make a small hidden tank knife, but nonetheless, I am very curious as to how the pattern will come out. Here, a bit of scale flew off into my shoe, and that's why I dropped my hammer, because it hurt a lot. But then we got back to it. I'm drawing out the tang to be able to have my hidden tang, and I'm working on that first because once I get too thin, which I actually did on this one, it becomes a bit of a pain. But since I didn't know how much material I was gonna have, I decided to thin it out first and then decide how much I wanted to be able to put on my hidden tang. If I didn't have enough, I could always weld more to it. As long as I get the first 2 inches or so nice and solid, I can always weld some extra if necessary. In this case, it wasn't necessary. I had a nice long hidden tank by the time I was done drawing it out, and still had plenty of material for a medium-sized kitchen knife. Now I'm gonna cut a bit of an angle on my blade, and that's just to be able to transition to a nicer profile for the knife while also getting rid of that bulge that always forms at the front of the billet. And in all honesty, I should have probably given it a bit of a steeper angle, but I was trying to keep as much material as I could in case I wanted to be able to manipulate it however I see fit whenever I'm doing my actual grinding. And because of the type of pattern it has on it, I don't want to do too much actual shape changing to the knife, because if I change the shape too much with the hammer, it'll distort the pattern even more, and I'm already going to lose some pattern to the sandmine, so I want to keep as much of it as I can. First things first, I'm going to grind off the little bit of slag that's always made. I don't know if slag is the correct term for it, but it's a little bit of steel that gets dragged off whenever we cut with that cutting tool. And then we're just going to clean up our profile. There's not really much material to move. I'm just going to clean up the tang area and clean up the edge, and that's pretty much going to be the shape of a knife. I'm not sure what the shape would be called, but it's more of a taller vegetable type knife. I don't know. I think it looks cool though. And after surface grinding, we go straight onto our heat treat, and it comes off pretty successful when we have a nice hardened knife. Alright guys, so we're at a temper. The knife is looking good. We do have one trouble spot, which is right here where it seems to have caved in.
and it has a little bit of oil that kind of polymerized in there. But I might have to make a steep angle here and get rid of that. Might grind out. I might have a bit of material there for it, but I do not think I do. So I might just have to slice that. But we'll get there when we get there. Got gone ahead and put it back on the surface grinder, clean all this up, and get it to a 120 grit. That way we can start grinding in our bevels. Overall, it's fairly straight, a little bit of wonky there. And I'll straighten that out with the Carbide peen really quick, and then we'll surface grind it. Overall, I think it's looking pretty cool. You definitely got that pattern in there. And we should be able to see it a little bit better once we get all this cred off.
And we move to our finish grind. I'm going to make sure to slowly grind my edge until I'm sure that I have my core steel exposed on both sides. And from there I can go ahead and do my angles and work my way down to create a bevel that goes about halfway through the knife. I don't want to go all the way up to the top, because the more I grind on it, the more likely it is that I expose more of that core steel and get rid of the mosaic that we made in the last video, and that's what I'm trying not to do. Here I decided that I couldn't grind that material off, so I decided to give it a steeper angle, bit of a curve to the front of it. I like the way it ultimately looked like, but it would have been cool to be able to keep that extra material. And afterwards we knock out all those edges, make sure the knife is nice and comfortable for holding. And we hand sand, yay.
Alright guys, so I got the knife hand sanded up to 800 and we're ready to start up on our handle. For the handle, we're going to be using this piece of curly maple. It's stabilized, it's just natural form. And we're going to be pairing it with this piece of stabilized and dyed. It has some yellow coloring in it. And I'm pretty sure it is a kind of burl, but I don't remember. But we're going to be pairing these two together for this knife. And I think it should look pretty good together.
So by this part of the build, I had forgotten I never did the shoulders for my hidden tang, so I jumped on ahead and went on ahead and did that with the 120 grit and just started taking material off, trying to get those shoulders as straight and as 90 degree as I could. I'm getting a lot better at being able to get these hidden tanks fitted up, though the thinner I go, the harder it is to get a very precise fit up, because the drill bits I have only go to certain thickness, and at that point it's very difficult to control a nice straight line to then go and clean up with a file or a broach. Now that I have the fit up set, I'm gonna go ahead and glue the two pieces. And originally I was gonna bed the tang in before I did all this, well, when I did all this, but I ended up grinding in the notches to my knife while I was killing some time, and then I was like, I can't do this now because then I won't be able to pull it out of the epoxy very easily. So I ended up doing it this way, which ultimately still works, but I had to put in a lot more epoxy when I did my final glue up, and filling up that much epoxy through that little entrance is a big pain in the ass. So for this handle, I decided I wanted more of an oval shape versus a standard shape where I cut in the corners. So on this one, I decided to cut in the corners and then start rounding it off as I went, trying to get the most comfortable shape as I could. I'm still not very good at it, but this worked out pretty well. And we move to our etch, first in ferric chloride for a few seconds, and then we move over to our coffee etch to reveal the look after a few hours. And this is the part of the video where I'd like to ask you guys if you like what you see and you like the way the knife is coming out and these weird ideas that I'm getting. Let me know in the comments down below, and be sure to like the video while you're at it. That way we can push it out to more people and we can get the channel to grow. And as we're talking about growing, we might as well go on ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. A lot of you guys are, but a lot of you guys aren't, and that would help me out a lot. So if you do me that favor, I'd greatly appreciate it. And as you can see, I busted out the syringe for this one just to make it a little bit easier to get in there, though it's still a pain in the ass to do. I definitely need to find something that I can shove in there to carry that epoxy in. But next time I do one of these, I think I'm going to try the dowel method and epoxy it all in and see if that works out better or not, because this one did move a little bit and it was a bit of a pain to resquare everything afterwards because of all the negative space I had in there whenever I set everything in. Overall, the knife glue up went without any problems other than a big mess I made. And this knife will be for sale for anybody that's interested in picking it up. It will be for sale on my website as soon as this video goes out. But if you're unfortunately too late, I do have other pretty cool knives there you can check out and maybe pick one of those. Regardless, I really appreciate you guys' support. And actually, I've been thinking both as a maker and as a salesman, I guess, or a businessman, whatever this makes me now. I should have a yearly goal for what kind of metrics I hit. So I've been thinking that I would like to hit at least 100 knives sold this year. Currently I have 5, I think, which means we're not going very well. But last year I sold a total of 40 knives in the first year that I spent selling, though that was from June towards December. So this year I decided that I will set my goal to 100 knives, and we're at 5 currently. So if you want to be number 6, I would really appreciate that. And I also think it would be cool to hit 250,000 subscribers this year. So if you want to help with that, hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Overall, I think this knife came out great. I did have more of that core steel exposed than I would have liked, but overall, I still think it came out pretty cool. And since all those center nines are made from the same steel as the core steel, it kind of blends in pretty nicely. And overall, it was a lot of fun to build. Soon I will be doing another project with nuts, but I will be layering them, and we'll see what kind of pattern we get for that. But that is for a future video. But as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. I greatly appreciate y'all, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.